We're live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. I'm Mahin and I'm joined by my co-hosts Shaykh Amir Saeed and Sim. On today's show we welcome an old friend of ours and long overdue guest, Fahim Faruk from Focus 180 from Waterloo, Ontario, and that's not the town that Napoleon had that battle in. Am I right?
That's right, man. That's right.
So first of all, we want
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, welcome salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You made me all religious all of a sudden now. You walked in here with that, mashallah, like nice beard and like Turkish rings.
Don't forget the flag, bro.
Oh, the
We
flag
got
as
the
well.
flag.
Absolutely. So I had the pleasure, like I picked you up at, so it's about 9:30 Chicago time. So I've been with you for like almost the last 6 hours. So I picked this guy up from the from his brother's apartment. He's here visiting for a few days. Fortunately, the rest of us have to go out to Isna this weekend. Inshallah, I pray that we make it out because we got really bad weather in Chicago. But anyways, picked up Fahim. Went up. I took him to my barber. Got my hair cut while he watched me. And then we
I vlogged the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of content's gonna come out of there, but and then when I came out to these burbs, so it was a lot of driving. Got some Italian beef from Lavatos, and
Alhamdulillah.
you know, you said you felt like trash though.
No, I felt
You're good?
good.
Okay.
I felt good.
Cool.
I felt you know the food coma?
Yeah.
You get it? That's what I felt.
Okay.
A lot of people feel that that's trash. I'm glad you liked it. That's good.
For me it's rare.
Okay.
I'm eating clean.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's a good
I'm
thing.
eating clean.
So, the thing about Fahim, we were talking on the way over here, is that Fahim is one of three brothers, and those of you guys who know about Focus 180, he's got and I'm sure we'll get more details, but it's like a support group for Muslim dudes trying to get their act together, fitness, spirituality, just holistic living, clean eating, all that stuff, right?
That's right.
You were making the pitch to my barber, and I remember as we were coming up here, you're obviously like a pretty eligible bachelor, 25-year-old dude, and he always entertains us. See, we all married guys have been like married 9 years, what,
Yeah.
10,
11.
15, 16?
Yeah, we all live vicariously through this guy.
You know, and he's always talking about like, there's these tools that they have now called like Muzmatch
Muzmatch.
that we didn't have, and like swiping left and right. And I was like, dang. So like, there's this whole new dynamic about like being single and Muslim, but it also sounds like it also poses a lot of problems. Maybe back in our time,
Oh yeah, loads of problems.
I think it just was a lot simpler for us in many ways. I mean, I know I met my wife in like February of the 1 year, and then like we were married by June, right? Like it was a pretty quick turnaround, like
It's
4
not bad.
months, like
It's not
you know.
bad, yeah.
You know, but now it's like maybe there's more tools, but there's also more baggage.
February to June.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Better than like February and the next weekend.
Right. Yeah. Right. So talk to us a little bit about what's the landscape like for a single dude, Muslim
Sure.
dude trying to be on the deen, trying to get married.
Oh, the juicy stuff. You want to know all the juicy stuff, huh? Okay. Well, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah, amma ba'd. The landscape it's a disaster out there, man. I'll be blunt, man.
Why is it?
It's a wasteland out there, bro.
What?
It's a wasteland.
Dude, when we were young, we would have killed to have apps like Muzmatch and
Minder.
and all the good stuff. And you guys
But here's the thing.
don't seem like you guys know how to handle those tools.
If your goal is to be a straightforward man, and you just want a straightforward marital process, where both sides are from the get-go honest, both sides are clear about their intents, then it's a wasteland out there. Simply because, excuse me, these apps, they're attracting all kinds of demographics, and it's very hard, even with the filters, which you have to pay for. If you want to get the filters to really work, you got to get the premium versions. And even with the filters, it's very difficult for you to screen which person you're getting matched with. You see what I mean? From my own statistics, I think that at least 70% on these apps are frankly people who've chosen to be trashy. You know, they've chosen to commit to that lifestyle. Maybe 15% are, you know, they're workable. If dating was halal, they would fall into the okay. This is like girlfriend material. I don't think I can envision a marriage with this person in the long run. Children. I could probably have a temporary relationship with this person, get along for this period of time, but marriage probably won't work. And then you have about 10% who pretty good. These are people you could actually work with for sure. 5% absolute gems. So as you can see, the chances of you getting matched with that 5% very low. The chances of you getting matched with the 70% very high.
So 70% are these like people who are up for like one night stands and stuff?
Absolutely.
So they all find each other, right? So wouldn't you think that 70% will just find each other?
And a majority of these people are Muslim?
Many of them will identify with being Muslim.
Okay.
But here's the problem. On these profiles, Muslim Match, for example, that's the one I have more experience with. You can choose your religiosity levels, right?
Yeah.
So you can, everything
Very
from
cool.
not practicing at all to very
I'm
practicing.
Sheikh.
So obviously you set the slider very high, right?
Yeah, for me, I put like everything from what I've set my preferences to, my own descriptions, my descriptors, and my actual bio indicates that I'm a guy who's serious about marriage, and I'm an Orthodox Muslim. I make it very clear. I even use words like Aqidah in my biography. You'll find maybe 1% of people on the app will use that word, right? Very few will even say, will start with Assalamu alaikum. Most will be like, hello, hi. And so I made it clear that this is who I am, but you'll find cases that are complicated because at first they'll say we're moderately practicing, usually praise. And then you'll find out that the girl goes clubbing with her family.
With her
family.
What?
What does that mean?
Why would you go clubbing with your family?
I know. Do you see what I'm saying?
Because
It's
I
very
think what he's
shocking.
trying to say is that the family culture itself
The family
is not
culture.
really, it doesn't really care. Like, guys that would go back in the 90s when guys didn't have to hide from their families.
Man, you're misinterpreting it. She's probably talking about her mahram. She's taking her brother or her father with her to the club.
That's right. She
No,
doesn't
no,
want to
no.
go without her mahram to the club.
That's exactly what I mean. She is taking her mahram. But what does that say about the mahram?
Yeah.
Think about that.
We were just saying that as a joke, but you actually brought up a very good point.
Think about that, bro. And I'll tell you what. I once spoke to one girl. This is actually a real story. She's actually the one who did say that. She's trying to become more practicing, which is good for her. But while she would try to pray sometimes, if there was a big occasion like a new family member or a cousin coming to visit from out of town or from out of the country, they would celebrate by going to a local club. And she'd be like, I take my cousins, my sister, my brother-in-law, my brother. I'm like, so like what happens if you're at the club and you're dancing and then some random guy comes up to you and starts dancing with you? I said, what does your brother do? And she's like, he just, tries to pull me away. And I'm like, he just tries to pull you away?
Just half-heartedly?
Yeah. And I'm like, how does that dynamic even work? Like, dude, so you go there to look out for each other. I can understand that. It's haram, obviously, but I can see that somehow, in some way, you're trying to make it a bit more justifiable. You're trying to make it seem like it's a little bit more accountable than you going by yourself. But that's hypocrisy to the max, That's hypocrisy to the max. This same guy, when he found out that I wanted him to know that I'm talking to her, he tells the girl, stop talking to this guy. He's weird. Why does he want to talk to me? I'm like, I'm sorry. With all due respect, does your brother have a spine?
Wow. Now, what ethnicity are these people that you're mainly meeting?
Bangladesh.
Bengalis? Oh.
Not all of them, but this particular one.
Whoa.
Yeah. New York.
Well, you guys are East Spot, so I can expect that kind of stuff.
And there's something about the New Yorkers. I don't know if this is a generalization or not.
Toronto too. Toronto Bengalis are also kind of
Like that. Okay, I see that. But the New Yorkers, they have this perception that they're in the best city in the world.
Yeah.
And that I noticed that there's a certain demographic that you have like parents. They kind of got into the country. I don't know if in the most legit ways. They're not necessarily the most educated in terms of having secular education. Socioeconomically, they may not be high middle class. They might be a little bit lower. And the second generation, the kids who grew up here, they got degrees and whatnot, but it's almost like they're struggling to develop while being trapped in two worlds. Shame culture, the shame culture of like the sort of old school village mentality, and then an American identity. And so you end up with these girls who have so many issues because they don't have one face, right? They don't have one sense of self. They have like 3, 4, 5. I want to pray, but then, oh, by the way, I got pregnant 3 times.
What? Whoa. 3 times.
3 times. True story too.
3 times.
Mhm.
And she did abortions?
Allahu alam, she said miscarriages, but
Yeah.
By 3 different dudes.
same dude, boyfriend, drug
Oh,
dealer,
wow.
Bengali girl. I felt really heartbroken.
Wait, so I thought your slider is all the way to the max religiosity factor. And
He's he's a good-looking, fit dude. Most Bengali guys look like me with a dad bod. All right,
That's true.
You know,
By the way, dad bods are in.
He-
Dad bods are in.
cute girls still don't like.
you are pretty handsome Bengalis. I didn't generally associate beauty with Bengali.
Yeah, he looks at me all day.
No offense. I mean, I only know 5
He'll say
Bengali.
the most offensive bomb and be like, sorry, no offense, you guys are ugly.
No.
But no offense.
No, to be honest, I've only met 2 Bengalis in my life, Mahin and Fahim. So Fahim, your competition is Mahin. So not that Mahin's
Dude,
real.
Mahin's a handsome
I
dude.
like Mahin's
Mahin, I got you,
new
brother.
cut though.
You're
Look at his
handsome.
cut, man.
You still leave me hanging. Mahin.
No,
Shut up, man.
is
You're
it weird though?
handsome,
Chicago
don't worry about it.
hardly has any Bengalis. I mean, they do, but
I don't
not
know.
that many.
They're around. They're just at these.
I think there's more in the UK.
there's a lot of
UK
Bengalis.
is-
There's a lot of Bengalis in
I-
Chicago.
And it was because of the migration time, I think, and that's why I'm.
So
a
it's
lot of Bengalis are in
interesting.
the UK.
So first of all, New York. Let's talk about New York and Toronto.
Mhm.
In my observation, I lived in Toronto for 2 years. So the family dynamic is such that it's usually like place like Chicago or maybe I grew up in Ohio, right?
Mhm.
Can't say coming to Ohio straight from Dhaka or like Delhi or where are y'all from? Like Hyderabad?
Mhm.
Yeah, cats are coming somewhere like New York or Toronto, like the big city or LA, right? So these people in New York never left; they just stayed there. So that was their first exposure. Sometimes their parents are the lifestyle there also as Toronto is like it's very hectic as far as the parents having to work multiple jobs because it's so
Yeah,
expensive to live there,
Absolutely.
right? So they're never home, and then like what's her name? Shasha is just out hanging out with like Jose on the corner in the Bronx and like getting knocked up, right?
It's unfortunate, man.
You know, I recommend though, but you said mention some people come out of here illegally, so I would recommend the ICE do their job and deport these Bengalis so they can protect their genes, right?
Oh, boy.
Welcome to the Mad Mamluks.
We're mad.
I mean, they just I think that would help solve the problem though at least, right? Because if they're in DACA, they're not getting knocked up as much.
If they're in Dhaka, actually, you'd be surprised, man. You would be surprised. It'll happen, except difference is they'll get secret abortions.
Oh, with those wire hangers.
Oh,
I don't even want to think about what they do.
Disturbing.
But I know very terrible stories. I know a sister. She told me herself, and there's a happy ending to this because she made a good step. But she tells me herself that one day she's in the hospital and she hears something from a garbage can nearby.
Yeah.
It sounds like some kind of an animal at first, but as she gets closer and closer, she can hear crying.
This is Bangladesh.
This is Bangladesh,
No,
Dhaka,
no,
in
no.
Dhaka. She gets closer and closer, she can hear crying, and then she opens the lid and sees there's a live baby in
What?
the garbage. She picks the baby up and decides to adopt the baby. Baby has a home, alhamdulillah. But this stuff happens, you know?
Wow. So, where are you at now? I mean, have you found any religious sisters? I mean,
Yes,
are you
yeah.
are you only exploring like Bengali sisters or?
No, I'm exploring other ethnicities.
How do your parents feel about that?
demographics. They're cool. They're
Really?
cool. I think even my own parents, they've come to a realization that it's not easy to find a certain type of person within one ethnicity.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a certain country that's not even dominated by that ethnicity. You're already a minority and you're looking within another minority. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like the problem is squared.
exactly.
All right. Well. Okay. Now, when you meet a lot of these sisters,
Mhm.
how does the conversation start? Because I'm kind of comparing, how things happened when I was young and how things are interact. I mean, I met my wife through the internet. I mean, it was a mutual friend who really got us together, but she was an online friend who put me in touch with a family from Arkansas, where she's from, and I ended up messaging her on what was back then called AOL Instant Messenger. There's no way you would know it.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
I do. In the 90s, it was still around, early 2000s.
Oh wow, okay.
They were trying to market it, but MSN came on the scene.
Uh-huh.
Remember that?
MSN
Yeah,
Messenger.
MSN
Yes.
Messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to compare how conversation goes now compared to back then. Because now, back then it was like, holy cow, it's a Muslim girl, and you don't get that many opportunities, so you better make it work, and you better change your tone and whatever bad habits you have. You know, if you were a smoker, you're no longer a smoker.
Like those overnight miracle transformations.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, right now, on these apps, like I mentioned earlier, if you get the premium version on Musmatch, for instance, and you are setting your own filters to an older age range, you yourself are a little older, automatically that's going to filter out a lot of the younger people who are filled with toxic people, right? Just because they're older doesn't guarantee that they're healthy. You can have kids.
Well, older people also realize, like, well, I'm on the clock, and I don't have much time left. A lot of the younger men and women, they both realize, like, oh, well, you know, the pool is pretty big.
They can waste time.
Yeah.
They can waste time.
Exactly.
Older people, there are cases I know where you have someone who's not even divorced yet. Let's say a sister, she's not even divorced yet, and she's already looking, she starts talking to you, and you're wondering, why are you talking to me if you're still technically married?
Ooh.
She's like, I'm going to get married. This is
Once
something
I
that
find
happened
the
to
right
get
guy.
divorced, you
brother I
mean?
know. Sorry?
Oh, you mean she's going to get divorced?
She's going to get divorced, but she's not divorced.
She's making her exit strategy already.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
She wants to make sure she has a backup plan.
I'm imagining that this is the exception to the norm amongst older folk.
She should meet another guy who has the same backup strategy. That would be match made in heaven.
More congruent.
That'd be a real
You're not
mismatch.
divorced yet? Wait, what do you
That'd be a
mean?
real
I'm not divorced yet. I'm not divorced yet either.
No, there's this phenomenon. I know some brothers that are my age that aren't married or weren't married before, and everyone's on apps. It's not just Musmatch, but I just want to know because I never wanted to ask them because I don't like to pry into people's business too much.
That's the best part.
No, but
should pry into
everyone
people's
is
business.
on Tinder, or they were,
Yeah.
at least a year ago.
Tinder's for the kuffar yani.
No, so check this out. I know a lot of Muslim guys that are on Tinder. So, and some of them are somewhat like
there are a lot of guys.
practicing. But so, are they just like looking for one night stands on Tinder? Or are they actually looking for like? And I know some guys that just are on Tinder just to check out the girls and their pictures and stuff, and
Which is kind of
like,
stupid.
it is kind of
Why
weird,
would you do
but
that?
Yeah,
it's like
If you wanna
normal
say that,
though.
which you shouldn't, but if you do,
No, but it's normal for a lot of guys, Muslim guys too, to be on Tinder.
Well,
No,
they want to find a second wife.
no, but
What's
some
wrong
of
with
these guys aren't even married. They've been married before.
Oh, you're
I
just
know-
talking
I know what
about
you're talking
singles
about, though.
bachelors?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
you're
mean,
not gonna find serious polygamous people on that. You're gonna
On
find
Tinder.
younger dudes.
Because I don't know if you guys know. I mean, like, there's a lot of Muslim guys on Tinder.
oh yeah.
A lot of Muslim guys on Tinder. I was actually really surprised. And they talk about it really similarly. Like, I went out to eat with some dudes, and they're like, "Oh, there's a girl in this area." I was like, "What is he doing?" I didn't want to say anything because
like that. I'm wondering how. I thought
Yeah.
people are like
No, no.
coming to you for counseling.
And
Is
they're
that
like,
you,
oh,
you
there's
do a lot
a-
of counseling.
No, and I was just like,
you mean Muslim dudes like in our kind of
Age group?
genre? Crew?
yes.
But they're younger, right? They're
No,
in their
I would
20s.
say they're like probably some of them are probably a little younger, a little older.
Are
than
they
my
married?
age.
Seriously,
Some of them are married, some of
Okay.
them are not.
that to me that's a surprise because in my experience when I deal with a lot of my clients, a lot of the dudes that do use Tinder and they're trying to form relationships, if they're Muslim regardless or if they're non-Muslim regardless of that, they're usually in their 20s, and I do have clients who are much older, but the ones who are older they don't tend to be on these apps. They don't tend to be on apps like Tinder. As for the Muslim guys who are on it, it's a bit of a conundrum when you find a Muslim guy who's religious but he's on it. I think that the reality is that.
But they're very vocal about it. They're not like trying to hide it.
Oh, so you're talking about those types?
Yeah.
To be honest, I have never met a religious Muslim brother who's vocal about it. He'll do it on the hush. But he won't be vocal about it outside, especially his immediate circle. Only within his immediate circle, he'll be like a little bit more open. Like, okay, you know what, guys, this is what I'm doing. But the ones who have skin in the game of say dawah or they give khutbahs, they would never.
Yeah, actually,
They would
yeah,
never.
they're not at that level, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I just found it surprising because they'll be talking about it while they're eating dinner and stuff. Like, oh, there's a girl in this area. I was like, that's weird. And
That's weird,
it's
man.
not like saying, okay, guys, they don't like have a confession. They're just like talking about it normally.
But
Everybody.
they don't realize you're a sheikh.
Uh,
And like,
That's
hey,
weird, man.
that's kind of disrespectful, man.
Yeah.
I understand, like, you want to, show off to your boys about some girl who.
But I am their,
you know,
but I am their boy. I mean, like you have to understand, bro. Like when you and me hang out together,
Yeah.
we're boys. You're like, oh, he's a sheikh. I'm gonna be all
Yeah,
weird.
but I mean, still, like, There's
No,
like
no.
me, and then there's everyone else, right? I
No,
mean, we
no,
have
I don't
something
think-
special that
I'm actually
think
glad
Sim
people. I'm
feels
actually
different.
glad people don't feel that way.
I do
to be
feel a
honest
little
with
bit
you.
of Lira, you know, who's talking to him, who's gotten that comfortable with Sheikh Amir that
No, I mean I'm glad people.
I think you're a sheikh.
No, you probably think so,
Sure.
but I'm actually glad people don't act that way. Like I like to be human too, right?
Yeah, I understand.
I like to hang out with people and be human.
Yeah.
I don't like to go everywhere where people think that I'm something that I'm not. And they
Like
start
the
like
haram
standing up
foods.
for me, you know, and sort of like saluting me and
But
stuff
you know,
like.
for me though, I don't need to create a dichotomy of sheikh and human. I can see you as a sheikh and a human. You see what I mean? I don't think most people think like that. I don't think people think like that. I think that society promotes this problem. This is exactly what I meant when I said earlier about how there are girls growing up in contexts where they're forced to, not necessarily forced, but they're influenced to develop five faces. They're trying to preserve their heritage. They're trying to fit in with their non-Muslim friends. They're trying to solidify an identity that encompasses their culture, religion, their profession, their aspirations. And that when you try to fit all of these often contradictory sets together, what happens? You yourself become a contradictory person, and oftentimes you become a toxic person. You know when people talk about that person has this personality disorder, that personality disorder. We look at the statistics right now of how personality disorders, their incidence is increasing. More and more people are being diagnosed with them. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it correlates with the fact that society today is conditioning people to be two-faced and three-faced and four-faced. You know, like you guys said, back in the old days, it was simple.
Well, it wasn't. Look, everyone goes through a phase. Well, at least I did. I shouldn't say everyone. I had to make an active choice somewhere in the middle of my marriage. Maybe not middle, but earlier on in my marriage, I'm like, I can't show a different face to my friends and a different face to my wife. I have to be the same person. I have to merge these two personalities together, and that's the only way I can find some kind of peace. Like.
Can it be possible that I don't always necessarily think it's two faces. You just have a certain relationship with your wife and a certain relationship with your friends. It doesn't mean, and this is just the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
You will just have a certain, and your wife will usually know that, hey, he has, like I made a comment today
Yeah.
to my wife, and she's like, yeah, there's probably something you should say to your friends and not to me. So she kind of understands it. Like, it was a meme that says some girls are, what was that meme? It was really, really funny, man. Some girls are Barbies and some girls are Annabelle or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
I sent that to you.
Did you? Was that you? I read so many memes today. What was it? Do you remember what that meme was?
That scary doll?
It said all women are dolls.
Yeah, all women are dolls.
Some are Barbies and some are Annabelle.
Yeah.
Oh, the Annabelle, the horror movie.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the reference.
Yeah, he saw.
Holy cow. Annabelle is, for
My
the
friend-
listeners who
one of
haven't
my
seen,
clients said that
Annabelle
to me.
is a
Listen,
very
I forwarded
scary
that to
doll.
The reason why he had such a reaction, that was a genuine reaction, is because he is terrified of horror movies. When we saw
for
Conjuring, we
real?
saw Conjuring together. And that's when we were going through a phase when we were really getting into Ruqya and all that kind of stuff. And
That'll be
can,
for
can
another episode.
Can I tell them what your reaction was when the scary parts came up?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, and all this stuff, and I look at Sim, and he's like, I swear to God, this was a few years ago, and he just like
No.
this. I looked at him, I
Okay.
started laughing in the middle of the. but the thing is that, so I showed that to her,
Okay.
and all girls are dolls, and some are Barbie, and some are Annabelle.
Oh, I forgot to transition. Can you do that face again? The face I made.
Oh,
the-
yeah. So Sim was like, he's literally covering his eyes, and then little by little he's opening and he's looking like this
Yeah.
to make sure nothing scary is coming out. I was like, dude, why?
Okay,
It was
so
your
what-
idea to watch this.
when I watch
Why
horror
are you?
movies-
It was your idea to watch
Okay.
the horror movies, but when you used to watch it, you used to freak out and close your eyes.
I like cheesy horror movies, okay? Nowadays they made horror movies to go.
They're very disturbing.
They're taking it to another level, man.
Yeah.
They get you attached to these characters. All right, so now like I'm gaining or getting a sense of attachment, and I feel I have a high level of empathy for these characters who are about to die and they're getting their head chopped off in really horrible manners. And,
No, but it digs to a really. One
Yeah.
thing I realized about today's horror movies, they dig deep in this weird place in your mind that shouldn't be tapped into.
yeah, I mean, I never
Actually, today, I mean, having kept up with so many of them, I find them getting drier and drier. It got to a certain point where they got exciting and then it plateaued. A lot of the new ones that are coming out, they're actually based on very old ideas. They're just doing remakes.
I think the last horror movie I saw was actually Conjuring. That was in your basement.
Conjuring
Conjuring 1.
Conjuring stood out. I think out of
Yeah.
most of the recent horror movies, Conjuring was one of them.
That was like 3 years ago
Did
when we
you,
saw
did you
that.
guys watch It Follows? Oh,
It
great,
Follows.
great, beautiful movies. It's about
There was one scene in it that was really scary.
yeah.
Everything else was
I
just
don't
kind
think
of.
I saw that.
I stopped watching it
So,
like
okay.
3/4 of the way through.
Okay.
But
Now it sounds horrible when I say it. It's not like raunchy, sex-filled movie. It's the monster follows the person who you had sexual relations,
Oh no, it follows. Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah,
I have seen that.
and it's
yeah.
it's like a dreadful suspense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the way did you get the correlation they were making in the movie? I don't want to ruin it for the listeners who haven't. All right.
No, I get it.
Spoiler alert.
But it's basically a symbolism of death.
Yeah.
How death just follows you everywhere, and you can try to run away from it as much as you want, but it will always come after you, and it spans generations. So when you look at the different scenes in the movie, you'll see
Yeah.
different types of technology, and you'll be like, wait, why is this person on a smartphone and they have like a big tube TV, right? Like one of those old 70s style TVs. They have all these type of hidden, what's it called, allegories or whatever.
Allegories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, so that you kind of get that this movie's not really about a monster, but it's about death, and death's just always coming after you.
So yeah, death is like the metaphor.
Right.
That underpins the movie. That's interesting. Some people had a more superficial interpretation. They're like, it's like an STD.
Well, you know how Sim is, man.
Yeah.
Super analytical. That's why I'm on this podcast. Otherwise,
Is that true?
like these two clowns.
I don't watch these movies.
Yeah.
No idea what's going
Mahin
on right
Shaykh
now.
is watching, so he can't comment.
Where's the shit?
Somewhere in Ohio, I bet.
In Ohio, I bet.
Watching
Is he actually watching?
No, the Awliya don't need YouTube. They have a
True,
dream.
true.
They'll probably see this in a
That's
dream
true.
tonight.
Ah,
But
Crazy.
no,
Yeah,
actually,
love it.
like the movies I watch are like, we talked about this before. Like, I think Friday Night Lights I was watching that last weekend again.
That's a good one. That's a classic.
Because
Oh,
I found it on Netflix.
I thought that was the best sports movie ever made, and my friends made fun of me
That is
forever
a
for
classic.
that.
Never
No,
even
it's a
heard of
classic.
it.
It's a classic.
Friday
Friday
Night
Night-
Lights is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But you know what the best scene in any of the sports movie in terms of a coach giving some advice was Al Pacino in
Any given Sunday.
Any Given Sunday.
Yeah.
The inches.
Yeah.
The
That was,
I haven't
inches
seen
of
it.
success.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my
people
God.
use it in a lot of
watch it.
motivational clips. People have that.
I've
in the
probably
background.
seen the clip, but I haven't seen the movie.
I wonder if we could pull it up on YouTube. It's fantastic. We might get pulled down off of.
So what Sheikh Amir was mentioning, I was thinking about that, how it's not necessarily being two-faced, you just have a different relationship. So I think that is distinct from what I was talking about, because what I was talking about isn't that principle. What you mentioned, it relates to having certain boundaries in certain relationships,
Yeah.
right? That's intentional.
And
that's
things just
principle.
don't merely interest your wife that you're going to talk about with your buddies.
Exactly.
Right?
So there's an order to that.
Yeah.
Versus what I'm talking about with the youth now is, it's almost as if they haven't actually developed a sense of congruence. These are my values. I might express these values to different people at a level that is appropriate for that person, but it's still that value, or it's still rooted in who I am. What they're struggling with is, I don't even know who I truly am. I'm a carbon copy of society, consumer patterns being driven by corporations. I'm not even thinking really critically to choose to be this intentionally. I'm therefore filled with contradictions, because if you're not thinking, you're not detecting your own contradictions.
Yeah.
You're just playing everything out. You're playing everything out. A little bit of it is an instinct to protect yourself. A little bit of it is just observation. What are my friends doing? What's able to get my desires satisfied really quickly? What keeps me out of media trouble? That's it. And
Yeah.
a lot of the youth are trapped at a level of low self-truth, low self-awareness. Low self-truth is a word I learned from one of my own mentors, Sidi Mustafa.
Yeah.
He's an amazing man, mashallah. I don't know if you guys know him. I mention him quite often in our chats.
Yeah.
But he uses that term, low self-truth people and high self-truth people. High self-truth meaning people who are self-aware. They know who they are.
So, and does he mean they're also more critical of themselves and trying to analyze their stuff, how their
Or they don't
brain
lie
works
to
and-
themselves.
They don't lie to themselves.
Mhm.
They're not going to necessarily be oppressive to themselves.
Yeah.
But they'll be honest. They'll be accountable. They also happen to be more genuine and warm to themselves too. You know, they won't go overboard in beating themselves up.
Oh.
But at the same time, they won't neglect their mistakes. They'll take action. They'll do what they have to do to fix their problems.
That's kind of half of me. I'm super critical of myself
Yeah.
to the point that I want to tear everything down. Like I want to tear the Memluk poster board down. I'm like, what the
No,
hell
not
is this
that,
all
not that.
for? And yeah,
Maybe we should keep the flag there. It'll
yeah,
stop them.
like
It'll stop.
let's
It's a
just say-
barrier.
It's a barrier.
we don't talk about our sins, but let's just say, you know, Sim has his own demons that he works through.
Yeah.
And the problem is that these demons sometimes, when you face your truth and you talk about, you know, being in the Dawa scene and, you know, talking to some of the major ulama in the world and all these fantastic personalities that you just feel like, you know, are you're just under their shadow, right? And then
You do feel that way.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, man, I'm a hypocrite. I don't deserve to be on this podcast.
Hey, you
Mine's smiling. Mine's like, yeah, you don't. Get the hell out of here.
No,
Take out my airtime.
Actually, this is where I think you and I disagree because I don't think this is. To me, maybe because I don't take myself too seriously on this show. I don't think of it as dawah. I just think about we're just having a conversation about issues with Muslims.
It's not about Qadda, but any type of dissemination of knowledge. You're transferring Islamic knowledge to an audience, and that's dawah right there.
And it may not even be knowledge.
I
It may
mean-
just be making them think differently, giving them a different paradigm.
I mean, what
Okay,
we
so-
Raising awareness.
What we do
Check
is
this out.
conversation.
You
right?
raise awareness, brother?
Yeah, but here's
Brother?
the thing. Maybe the idea is that even if it is dawah, don't think of it as dawah. That way, you're not putting pressure on yourself.
Well,
You know, I should just make this a big money-making enterprise, and then
Yeah, dude, like, this guy was-
lose all the hasanat for this effort.
You know, I just learned what Ak means today.
hmm.
I was like, what the hell does
Well,
Ak
so
mean?
Fahim was like saying, "Well, y'all on episode 119, and y'all ain't getting paid." I'm like, "I know, right?"
See, Fahim, we had a big discussion about this. We had like a round table where all the heads of the 5 families sat down, and
I know, man. I
we
got
tried to
some good
figure out,
footage.
like,
I got some good footage on this.
yeah, well, we tried to figure out, like, hey, should we make money off the Mad Mamluks? And then, you know, I asked the guys, I'm like, find me one person who was able to do business with their friends and walked away profitable and maintained their friendship afterwards, you know? Every single person I know that took their friend into a business partnership, and that whole thing went sideways real fast. Everything went to hell. I mean, I was about to swear. Thank God.
No.
What are your thoughts? Because I know you had some thoughts on this, right? I want to get your thoughts on.
My thoughts are, I can empathize with where you're coming from because you care about your relationships.
Absolutely.
But I think that if two people, like I mentioned, are high self-truth,
Right.
they know where they stand, it doesn't have to end up that way. You see what I mean?
It's not, I mean, I feel you, but here's what I say. Like, my feeling is like, Shaykh Amir, Mahin, I'm just taking you guys as an example. If you guys start up your websites, right? Start
Yeah.
up any kind of business.
Yeah.
Shaykh Amir is selling water bottles. Mahin's selling
It's their bottles.
Ithar bottles, right? Okay. You guys start off the episode.
Organic, authentic.
You guys start off the episode trying to pitch your bottles and your water bottles or whatever, and talk about your product that you're selling, and that is a natural way of your product that you're selling on another website. You're kind of doing marketing through the podcast as it's gaining a lot of listeners and a lot of
traffic.
following.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the major podcasters do something similar. I know.
For sure.
We know, like, guys like Rogan, they have their
Yeah.
their thing.
All those brain
Yeah,
supplements.
yeah. So everyone has this kind of thing going, and I was telling the guys, like, I don't think I told them, but I would suggest, even instead of putting money towards this podcast, put it towards like a website or something that you can have some kind of automation behind, and advertise it on the website or advertise it through the podcast, and boom, you have something making money. We can pause and do a quick 15-second shout out to your website as a sponsor or whatever. I mean, these are ways to maintain neutrality of the show, so that the show is not about making money, but it's a podcast for the people, right? It's not a capitalist empire.
Okay.
Yeah, so one thing is that there's a few times where I'm really in a state of flow, meaning that time just goes by so fast, right?
Yeah.
When I'm in a podcast,
Like you're very much in the present.
I'm not only in the present, but time. I can't keep track of time. It's just when you do something, it's just it's an outlet for me.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to make myself, and this is where the Dawah thing comes in, is that it's a very easy way to get your ideas, or at least maybe your ideas are wrong, but it's a good way for you to shed light on what you believe to people. And for me, that's much more valuable than money. And I know all of us, we value money not from a super materialistic way, but everybody needs money, right?
Absolutely.
But this is like my hobby. I don't really do too many other things. This is my hobby. So if money were to come into the picture, I would understand it. If it didn't, I'm totally fine with it too.
Cool.
But I do think of this, like my intention when I get on this, inshallah, may Allah accept all of our intentions.
Yeah,
Like
inshallah.
this is my 2 cents that I can give to Dawah in this world. Like
Okay.
we have a platform. That's a favor from Allah. It's nothing about us. Even though Sim puts in a lot of work, Mahin puts in a lot of work, I don't do anything, I just show up. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in this situation, and we literally have people on the other side of the world that can hear us.
No,
Why
absolutely.
wouldn't I think of this as Dawah? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm not saying this to knock on your thing. That's totally cool. I'm glad you're so
Yeah,
transparent.
mine.
That's the thing I love about you, bro. You're transparent. You don't care what people think. That's awesome.
We were talking about it in the car.
Yeah, he don't
He
care.
forgets that.
Oh,
people
that's-
are-
That's why he's on the Mad Mamluks.
Yes.
He brings a madness to another
And I
level.
was
I
saying to
love
him that
it.
there's value in that.
Yeah. There's a
Oh,
lot of value.
yeah. What
Sometimes I wish I could be like that.
Well, what Fahim and I were saying was we were going to get food, right? And he's telling me about how he's told his family about coming on the show, and I was like, the thing is that for me, I don't personally like change what I am because the recording is on.
That's cool.
So I'll just because I don't think I don't think it through. It might be really dumb. I don't think it through. Like some people, I think when they think of a recording that's going to be on the internet forever. Oh crap! I don't know who's going to watch this. Maybe some HR person at my company I want to work at, or my daughter's going to hear this in 20 years and like cringe, and she's going to end up being some SJW leftist.
Then she definitely needs to hear this.
Whatever. But they're going through this stuff. What? It's on the internet forever.
Yeah,
I got to
yeah.
be careful of what I say, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And me, like, I guess I understand it, but I just don't either care enough or it's just too much to worry about.
But that's what
That's awesome.
that's what I mean when I say there are people who are low self-truth and high self-truth.
Yeah.
That's high self-truth.
What does that even mean? I still don't understand what that means.
You're congruent. You're a congruent person. You have one face.
Although I'll say this with Sim, so like I think like it was interesting you brought up the whole point about how early in your marriage, you said I'm going to be the same person across the board, right?
Yeah.
I would say the way I navigate because everyone's like my wife's a certain personality, right? I mean, I think if I was completely congruent with her, the way I am with my boys, she probably would have dumped me like 8 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
You don't
Yeah.
know for sure.
Yeah,
Actually.
I mean, look,
You should try that out today.
I'm not built that way. I mean, I know, like, Shaykh Amir, you have your own decorum with your wife, and you're a different way with your friends.
And it's not like I'm totally serious all the time. We're goofballs. We are.
We are
Yeah.
goofballs, but, like, the way I'm built, I have to be genuine, and there's no other way about it. When I'm trying to be different faces to different people, there's like a conflict inside that.
Yeah.
There's two beings that are fighting for control.
That's it. That's it right there.
Mm.
And I believe that if your fifth right is intact,
Right.
you're not going to be comfortable when
Right.
you know you're lying through your teeth. You're
Yeah.
not going to be comfortable.
So I mean I see exactly what you're saying. I see what you're saying, but I think that everybody needs a little bit of what you're saying. But I think everybody needs to relax a little bit. Like, what do I mean by that, right? And I know this may not be completely related, but the first thing that comes to mind is where, the Sahabi, he comes to Rasulullah and he says that, who was that? It may have been Hudayfa. I forget who the Sahabi was.
Abdullah bin Masud.
No, he says, Ya Rasulullah, when we're with you, he comes to Rasulullah and says, whenever we're with you, all we think about is Allah and His Rasul. And I'm paraphrasing, but when we go back with our families, we forget about,
Right.
So that means that they did have a certain decorum with Rasulullah, but when they went back to their families, did that mean that they had a different relationship? Yeah, it means they had a different relationship, but that's because the presence of certain people, like I was talking to my students today, and we're talking about the respect of Ramadan. When Ramadan comes about, it's actually better to not do certain things that you do that may be haram, and it doesn't mean you're a hypocrite just because you stop it for 1 month, right? Because that's what you say to each other when one of their friends is like, I'm not going to do this during Ramadan, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to smoke weed during Ramadan, this. And one of their friends say, that echo chamber usually says what? Oh, you're such a hypocrite, because you're going to go right back to it after Ramadan.
Yeah.
So what I said to them is that, just think about it on a very simple level. Would you do the same things and your same language that you have with your friends? Would you do that to your parent? Would you do the same thing in front of your parents? And even the conversations that you may just have with your brothers, like nothing haram's going on. You just have a different way of posturing, different way of sitting with your legs up in the air, on the cushion or whatever. You wouldn't be the same way in front of your parents, right? In front of your parents, you just be a little more respectful and stuff, even though your parents know you a lot better than anybody else. And so for me, I understand. I think everybody needs a little bit of what you're saying, that you have to be very genuine with yourself. But I think human beings, by default, we see people that have a certain aura, and by natural default, we're just a certain way in posturing in front of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Shirazi shows up and Sim puts on his act.
It's not really an act. It's,
No, that's just me giving him a hard time.
I see what you're saying, Shirley.
Yeah.
I agree with it, but if when we think about the point you're making, that there are certain people that have a certain aura around us. Well, I think that those people have that aura because they are high self-truth, because they themselves are authentic.
I agree with you.
You see what I'm saying?
That's very true, actually. That's deep, brother.
We may not be able to reach their level. We can't reach Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's
Of
level,
course, yeah.
but we know that he was fully authentic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he had perfected it. He was
Yeah.
perfected. He is perfected, and he is perfect. And so it's like, to the point you made about how just because you're trying to stop something for a time period doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. And I would say that makes perfect sense, because when we see a recovering addict, the guy's trying to go sober for a week, we wouldn't say you're being a hypocrite. We're saying good job.
Yeah.
Right? We would say you should try.
Yeah.
Take that step.
Yes.
So I think that there's a big difference between willful hypocrisy and then humbly accepting that you simply are not consistent. Like one of the reasons that we believe the Quran is from Allah is because it doesn't have contradictions.
Yeah.
And so we know that contradictions, if there's a contradiction, it indicates that it's human, right? So we can't escape the fact that we are inconsistent. And so that's why Allah's rahmah is so important. But what we can do is...
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. But what we can do is we can reduce the degree of those contradictions.
Mm.
We can reduce the degree of those inconsistencies. Especially when we're in a situation today where it's like even non-Muslims who don't even have the same set of premises on how relationships should start and how they should be maintained, what kind of boundaries they should include. They don't talk about halal and haram like we do. But even they would think that some of the behavior of these youth on these apps is simply unhealthy. Like some of these girls and guys are trying to use these apps to rebound. And even non-Muslim success coaches, in that whole industry of self-realization would be like, are you sure you should be doing that? Are you sure you shouldn't just take time off to figure yourself out? You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's like when non-Muslims with a whole different set of premises about what a good life is, if they can themselves detect that what you as a Muslim are doing is wrong, then you know that you've really gone astray.
Something's up.
You know what I mean?
Something's
up. You've taken too many steps in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
I want to segue into Focus 180, but there's actually something that I want to tie in to
Yeah,
it
sure.
that I wasn't expecting to ask you, but again, my
Here it comes. Just get ready.
being around you for the last 6
Just
hours
get ready.
Oh boy.
has prompted this angle, which is not probably what Sim and Shaykh Amir...
If any kids are watching, please mute the YouTube.
So, Fahim, when I'm like, as we're driving around, we're talking and stuff, every time the Prophet ﷺ's name is mentioned, he's very emphatically always saying, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and we prayed, Salah at Islamic Center of Chicago, on Peterson, on Lincoln, sorry.
Yeah.
And he was doing salawat after, like kind of loud. There was no one else there, just me and you, right? And I only do that in a molid usually or something, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you were like kind of I just noticed like you multiple times throughout today you were doing it, just like reciting salawat out loud. So certainly there's some kind of connection there, right? That's not just unless you were just doing a show off to me, which I assume is not the case.
He thinks he's got the aura.
Yeah.
Become a whole different person. Right?
Typical Mahin.
But there's obviously, I assume that you have some genuine connection. See, Muslims say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, right? But at the end of the day, let's just keep it 100. Most Muslims don't really understand the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Absolutely.
But I feel like you, just something about you, you're like, you've got some connection there. And I want to know what it is, how you developed it, and like, how are you using that in Focus 180? Because he is the ultimate example of a man, of a human being,
Yeah.
right?
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You know, 3 or 4 months ago, maybe a little longer, I actually asked my mentor, Sidi Mustafa Azam.
Any relation to Abdullah?
No,
Don't worry about it.
no, no.
He died before he was born.
Continue, please.
Alhamdulillah, I don't
Classic
understand the
scene.
reference. So
Yeah, okay.
I'll continue.
It's good that you didn't.
Alhamdulillah. So I asked him this question because I, at that time, felt as if my connection to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was weakened, and I felt that I was, disconnected. I was going through a lot of stress in my practice, with my clients, in my personal life, my relationships, my professional life, my own health. My chest inflammation had returned after a long time. I had that for 4 to 5 years, chronically, and every day I would be coughing like 50 times. If I was on one side of the masjid or campus, and you could hear me cough, people on the other side who knew me would be like, "We know where Fahim is now." Like, they're trying to figure out where I am, and
Wow.
they can hear coughing. Go, okay, we found him.
Is
Even
that like
though they
whooping
hadn't
cough?
seen us. Sorry.
Is this whooping cough? What is this?
It was like a very deep hoarse cough, usually dry, but it was very painful.
I think he's prying into your personal business, asking what your
No,
diagnosis.
I just want to know what.
Oh,
what-
I see.
I mean, if it's personal, don't you don't have
No,
to
you
share.
just
I
made it really
wondering.
awkward for him. But go
No,
ahead,
go ahead,
you
go
can answer
ahead,
it if you
Yeah,
want.
sure. I can come back to that, inshallah. So,
He doesn't know how crazy we are. I'm just go ahead. Dude. Don't
I'm
worry.
in the group chat. I see some of this stuff, man. I see it. But so I asked him this question, and he gave me 3 points, 3 very simple points that he wanted me to focus on, and I can't remember all of the points, but to the best of my memory, I think the very first one was salawat, and increasing in salawat, and making it a habit. He also mentioned for me to connect myself and be in the presence of people who do have love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Be around people who have that love, to develop it. Proximity. We're distant from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, both in time and physical proximity. So he said, close that gap by being around people who have a closeness to them. And I can't at this moment remember the third point. I'd have to pull up our conversation, but it was connected to these 3. Actually, the previous 2. And so,
Was it learning about him?
sorry.
What about learning the seerah?
Yeah, learning. It was tied into that.
Okay.
Learning the seerah was tied into that. But the more I reflect on who I am, the more I try to reflect on how consistent am I being as a man myself. The more I'm finding that my relationship with him, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is improving, because it's like if your relationship with yourself, the relationship with the self, if that's damaged, then the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the relationship with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be damaged. That's what I find.
So I mean,
That's beautiful.
how are you making that connection? A lot of people say like they identify with different aspects of the seerah, like people who are being bullied at school, for example, or they're alone, they don't have friends. They identify with the Prophet's early life when he was growing up as an orphan, and he didn't have anyone to be there and
Absolutely.
give him that kind of support, at least socially, right? So,
Well,
on what level are you identifying with him?
what I'm trying to do, and what I think a Muslim should try to do, is focus on truth, haq. Truth. That's something we all
Internally?
Internally, in my thoughts, in what I put my energy towards. So I'll give you examples of this in the moments to come. In my speech, in my states of being, I'm trying to connect to the truth.
Yeah.
I for example, we believe Islam is true.
Right.
So if Islam is true, then then what Islam encapsulates is also true. Salah, doing the dawah, the beliefs that come with Islam, the creed, how you see the universe. What is the universe? Is it just a set of particles that exist eternally, or do we see the universe as a contingent structure, a creation? Allah is the only necessary being. The universe is just contingent. It's a creation of Allah. That all depends on what you believe is true. If you don't even think about this stuff, if in your daily life you're just living your life no differently than people who grew up in the secular, liberal, capitalist society, but then you pray 5 times a day, you're not going to be able to connect with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
Because you're not really thinking about the truth. You're thinking about some rituals that you've taken from Islam, and you're mixing it in with a lifestyle that you've been conditioned to lead in an entirely non-Muslim, un-Islamic frame of being. Everything from your health decisions, everything from your social decisions, your consumer behavior, all of that is being shaped by fundamentally un-Islamic ideologies. And there might be overlap, right? For example, medicine is a universally accessible thing. You could be a Chinese person living in China who is non-Muslim. You could be an Indian, Hindu. You could be a Canadian random white dude who likes hockey and has studied medicine. And you'll all reach certain truths about medicine, but not necessarily about all the other existential questions. And so it's like, if you're not concerned about these overarching truths in your daily life and your daily pursuits, who you want to be as a man, what kind of relationships you want to form, if those questions aren't in some way being tied in to your pursuit of truth, then you're not going to connect with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the gateway to truth, to haqq, to Allah. So it's like, if you don't get that, if you don't really think about that, if it doesn't trouble you when you find yourself not caring about the truth, if that doesn't trouble you, then I don't think you can connect.
So here's my own journey, at least with the truth, with the phrase "the truth," and I know it sounds corny, and a lot of people use the truth in that word, they kind of abuse that word, and a lot of liars say the truth and blah blah blah.
By the way, sorry to interrupt, but I'll start looking at you more when I talk.
Oh, fantastic!
I know I'm going like this a lot.
Oh,
I gotta go like this.
hey, that's fine too. Doesn't hurt me. He's a very good looking man right there.
He's Bengali, man.
No, but
Sorry,
in terms
please
of
go on.
forming the building blocks of human consciousness,
Yes.
you know, the way you understood the world around you in its entirety, in its the correct reality, that you didn't, I think for the most part, most of us have the same kind of information coming in as we're growing up in our childhood and adolescent years. We're getting the same kind of information in. I mean, childhood drama, mommy and daddy disciplining you,
Yep.
and it's all the same, but we're all processing that information differently. And we're putting our own tail on it, our own spin on it. And what I'm trying to do is go back into the deepest part of my psyche and re-understanding or rethinking or reevaluating how I processed all that information and what kind of conclusions did I make off of those experiences. Were my initial conclusions about various events in my life truthful or not?
Absolutely.
Or were they full of crap? Was I making myself a victim when I really wasn't? These are the things I feel is really missing in a lot of young Muslims, or in everyone.
Human beings.
In human
Growing
beings.
up.
I mean, I just said young Muslims because I'm talking to my daughters about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure.
And making sure that, because
That's what's relevant to you.
they're teenagers, and I want to make sure that this part of their life, they're really understanding the events that happen in their life the correct way. They're putting the correct lens on it. They're not getting caught up in this victim mentality and all these other things that are happening in social media. Social justice warriors and the whole frame of thought from the leftist perspective or the whole postmodernist perspective, where that everyone is in a state of power. Fahim is a powerful person. Sim isn't. So Fahim is an oppressor, and Sim is a victim. No matter what Fahim does.
You have more rings on your finger, man. You're more powerful.
So-
I got 1, 2, 3. He's at one. Just on one hand, he's got 5 or 3.
Well, what do you think about that? Have you thought about looking at truth from that kind of perspective, where you are reevaluating everything that you experienced in your life, and reevaluating whether the conclusions you've made and that that defined Fahim Ayman Faruk today, are they based on truth, or is it a bag of crap?
That's a very good question. And one of the services I offer through Focus 180 is called 180 Principles. So Focus 180, and I'll tie in the answer to your question through an introduction to Focus 180 and its services, because one of the services in particular addresses your question, but Focus 180 as a whole was built by me, alhamdulillah, over 5-6 years
Right.
of self-discovery and grappling with society and social changes, to address the question of how do you optimize the human being living in a modern, post-industrial, capitalist society. You're not living in a village in Bangladesh. You're not living in the mountains of Afghanistan. You're living here in North America. You have very different problems. You've been very fundamentally disconnected from nature. You've been fundamentally disconnected from the boundaries and limits of nature. And oftentimes we find that when that happens, you become disconnected from reality in some ways. You start to get delusional. The difference between a teenager who drives his car to respect the speed limits and to drive responsibly, and a teenager who likes to race with his or her friends, is that one has a healthy sense of limit and the other has no sense of limit. And we find in this phenomenon, we find that people can either be connected to nature, to their fitra, which involves loads of limits, which involves loads of natural laws you have to be mindful of, or they can be extremely disconnected. So they can either be connected or disconnected. When we're asking questions about how do you optimize yourself as a human being, what I'm really getting at is how do you become a functional person? A function has an output. A function leads to an output. Anyone who studies math, computer science, engineering, they know this, physics, right? Functions have outputs. So when I say functional, what I mean is, are you yourself performing correctly as you were intended to perform based on how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you? When we look at the human being and we look at the world around us, we look at this device right here, we see that everything has a confining boundary. The shape of this cup determines its use. The shape of my hand, my anatomy and physiology determines what I do with this hand. Us being guys, having testosterone, that's a confining boundary that determines our function as men. We can procreate a certain way. Women having a uterus, having a vagina, having estrogen, having eggs, those are confining boundaries. And those determine the function of femininity in practice, right? We can't escape this. So when we want to be functional human beings, part of that means being in touch with reality. The more delusional you are, the more dysfunctional you are, the less in touch with reality you are. You're not grounded. Focus 180 was meant to solve that problem on a physical level. People today in the modern context have so many physical problems because they're no longer in touch with nature. They have all these unnatural dysfunctions that have developed that didn't exist just 300 years ago. The amount of sugar today, for example, that we eat on a daily basis, in a week, a kid has had more sugar today in America, the United States, than an adult would have had in 20 years, 400 years ago.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's shocking. Not necessarily a week, but let's say a month. That's not normal, right? So when you were asking questions about, did I think about my roots in childhood and the conditioning I went through, and whether or not my interpretation of that conditioning was really sound or was it just nonsense? I just constructed a view of myself that really has no basis. If you were to really look at my life and see what I went through, there's no real relationship between who I think I am and what I've actually gone through. Well, in Focus 180, that's where the sort of spiritual personality and relational solutions come in. The physical stuff is dealing with the physical dysfunction in a person, posture issues, nutrition issues. You're eating garbage. Your sleep cycle is horrible. You have very low testosterone levels because you're eating crap. You're not exercising. You have all this back pain. You have headaches. But then the emotional, social dysfunctions are you're a liar. You're dysfunctional in how you form relationships with people because you have low self-esteem.
You make excuses for stuff. I mean, just me trying to figure out why I can't go working out after Fajr. Oh, I'm tired, blah, 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 all these excuses, you know?
That's part of it.
And then you just sit down on your right after you take your nap and, you know, you get ready to go to work. And you drive to work, you think about why you didn't go to work out, even though you promised yourself you would go work out right after Fajr.
That's it.
Regret sucks, man.
Regret.
But what
The problem with making excuses, you have to regret it later.
You admit to yourself you're full of crap. Like, hey, you're a liar. You didn't really want to wake up and go to Fajr. You didn't want to go to work out after Fajr. If you did, you would have gotten sleep much earlier.
That's it.
You would have gotten.
You would have.
You would have slept at 9:30. You know, not 11 or 12, and then expect to be full of energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so these are things that are really missing from, I think, a lot of coaching and a lot of, you know, training programs of any kind. I feel like it's not really hitting the deep psychological level of any patient, and even the whole therapy business. I'm really feeling like
for sure,
it's just
most therapists themselves.
It's become a money-making scheme in a lot of respect, and I hope to talk to some of the therapists that I do respect, you know, from the Halal Center in Chicago. Those guys are fantastic, and
they're fantastic.
And I want to talk about some of the discourse of truth with the patient, and how, you know, when do we actually start solving some of these problems instead of, you know,
lower the level of BS and increase the level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, when you hear about programs like Alcoholics
I was
Anonymous.
just going to mention that. 12 steps.
They first thing is admitting the truth that
That's
you
it.
are an addict, right?
That's the first step.
Admitting that you are full of crap, and stop denying that, oh, you know, I can quit any time and blah blah blah. And if you apply that model to many other things in your life, whatever it may be, whatever problems you're experiencing, whether you don't do well in school, or you know, your lack of discipline and whatever, you apply these steps, you know, coming to terms with the truth that you're full of crap and you have a problem, and you need to figure out a plan to unravel this problem. And, you know, I'm not sure. I think for most things those steps can be applied to.
That's right. And there's actually a really cool book written by Russell Brand, and it's called Recovery, Freedom from Our Addictions. And what he does is he basically modifies the 12 steps of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, and he applies it to any other pattern that's destructive, that's dysfunctional, that you have in your life, and how you can also likewise overcome those patterns. And through Focus 180, the dysfunctions that I mentioned that are social, personality-based, spiritual, those ones have just as much to do with human suffering as the physical ones. In fact, I think they're related. I think that you can find that one can worsen the other. You know, you have one that can lead to the other, or if you have the other, that can lead to a complementary set of physical problems. Let's say you have personality issues. Those personality issues often have comorbid physical symptoms. Let me give you an example. You have an anxiety disorder. Well, oftentimes there are physical symptoms that manifest when you have an anxiety disorder. Sweating, heart palpitations, time is going faster, you can't focus, your breathing is really shallow. These are all physical things. You see what I mean? And this will actually worsen your stress response, and your stress, the levels of your stress hormone in your body, cortisol. So it's like there's a relationship, a very dynamic relationship between the two. And so it's like if you don't take care of one, another a problem that's complementary in a different dimension can worsen. Or if you do take care of one, that might lessen the manifestation of a complementary problem in a different dimension. You deal with your personality issues, you might find that your physical issues are lessening at least. They may not go away, but they might lessen. You deal with your physical issues, you might see that some of your personality issues, your emotional issues are lessening. Or you're at least preventing them from getting worse and worse and worse. And so it's like, through Focus 180, I have a lot of different programs that try to address every aspect of each of these dimensions.
And when you say Focus 180, you don't just put out blogs. You actually have clients and
I
you
got
work
clients.
with them, right?
Yeah.
So let me. I don't know if you're able to do this, but let's say somebody says to you, you know what? I know how much I should be losing weight. I know how important it is to me. I know the benefits of it. I can't stand being overweight, but I just love food too much.
Mhm.
So like, what is your protocol with them? Like, what do you do?
So I've actually had those situations many times. One guy, he came to me, this was 3 years ago. He was a convert brother, cool guy. He was a white convert from a conservative white family, a bit more on the rural end. And he told me, you know what, Fahim, I want to get healthy. I want to get married. He was really, really obsessed with marriage. And so I could
Did you
already
talk him
tell.
out of it?
Sorry?
Did you talk him out of it?
At that time, yes. But right now, he sent me his biodata. I got him.
Biodata.
Biodata.
I didn't know you used that word. Do
Literally.
you use that word on Focus 182? Biodata?
No.
Okay, just asking.
I should start getting my clients, prospective clients, to make a biodata
Oh.
and to apply to Focus 180.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So this guy, this brother, he had a minor eating disorder. I would say I classified it as minor simply because he was able to exert enough control for enough time that I didn't think that it would ruin his life. That it was extreme, but still it was enough of a problem to be causing him health issues, to be causing him to lose control, to a degree where he wasn't happy, and to a degree where he wouldn't be able to form good relationships. He wouldn't be able to get to his goals.
Mhm.
So what I said to him was, look, let's sit down. Let's first try to identify the problem. Step one, identify the problem. We sat down, and he said to me, you know what? I don't know why I can't stop eating. And I said to him, well, let's try to find a pattern here. When is it that you are most vulnerable to binge eating? He said, well, anytime I see a girl, a sister, and I say salam to them, and they just kind of look at me like, wa alaikum assalam, and I feel like a loser because I didn't say anything else, or I didn't feel confident, I didn't feel in my zone, and I said, bingo. So you rush to binge eating right then and there as a compensation mechanism for your low self-esteem, for feeling as if you have a lack of confidence, for feeling like you were incompetent in that situation. Bingo, right there. So if we can...
It's used as a drug
It's
to
used
make
as
you
a
feel
drug.
better.
Yeah, temporarily. Gives you a high. Gives you a way to escape.
It gives
that
you
problem.
a type of pleasure based on your
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not saying that for every single person with that problem that's the reason, but it could be a very similar reason, that it's an escape route. It represents a lack of restriction in a person's life.
Hmm.
A lack of restriction manifests in different people's lives in many different ways. In his case, a lack of restriction meant instead of confronting that problem, being restricted through self-discipline to confront that problem, he wants an exit strategy. And that exit strategy is McDonald's. And then he incurs $1,000 on his credit card. That's a third problem. Do you see what I mean?
Well,
Just keep going.
because he binge eated that much.
Yes.
Okay.
See?
Oh, so he goes to probably some high-end restaurants too.
That's what he's doing.
Treats himself out.
That's what
Make
he's
myself
doing.
feel better. I get it.
That's
Wow.
called comfort food.
Comfort food.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So not only does he have one problem, that the original one,
Yeah.
now he has three,
Right.
right? And now he needs a job. And then he's going to suffer in school.
Right.
And then he's going to, it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So it's like stage one is always identify the problem. Stage two, determine Band-Aid solutions and long-term solutions. The Band-Aid solutions are simply, just like, a psychiatrist, for really difficult cases, instead of giving therapy, they just prescribe drugs. Sometimes the drugs are needed just to manage a problem, because it's at such a point
Yeah.
That therapy it won't work just yet, not effectively. You need to sort of get the problem under control first. So the Band-Aid solution is kind of like that, where it's like, look, this isn't a solution you want to rely on forever, but it'll get you by for a little bit.
And sometimes it's needed.
Sometimes it's needed.
Because of emergency situations.
Emergency
Yeah.
situations. It'll get you by long enough just so you can get back on your feet, and get to the long-term solution, which would be self-discipline.
Yeah.
A sense of self-mastery, working on your social skills, building a healthy sense of self, an identity from which you operate.
Yeah.
So when you talk to these girls, for example, and we also talk about the Islamic way of approaching sisters for marriage, but that's besides the point, because his issue was anytime he spoke to a girl, whether it would be through a halal external, outwardly halal way, or even in a haram way, if the response was one of rejection or one, where he didn't feel in the zone, he didn't feel like he had full acceptance,
Yeah.
he would act as if everything he was and is crumbles.
Mm.
And I said, well, that means that your sense of self is fractured.
Have you ever been dumped, Fahim? By someone you
Man.
cared a lot about?
I wish I would have gotten dumped at least a few times, and I wouldn't feel so bad for the number of times I dumped all the girls.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. It's a tough. It's for someone who's been through that. It can completely destroy your being to the fabric, especially when there's a. You start doubting reality.
Oh yeah.
And everything that you knew about yourself,
Mhm.
you will lose all confidence in who you are.
Totally.
And I was wondering, like,
I had crippling social anxiety as a child,
Yeah.
and all the way into my early teens, and it was so bad
yeah,
that when I was in grade 5, I remember this clearly, and I laugh at myself, and I tell everyone this story, especially my clients, because they don't believe me. But when I was in grade 5, I'm 10 years old, I'm walking. I'm like one of the only brown kids at school. This was way before the age of diversity is cool.
yeah.
Way
Same here.
before.
I think on a level that most of us go through that.
Most of us.
Most
the older
of brown
generations.
kids. I went
Yeah.
to a school with all white kids, and just my mom would pack Indian food for lunch.
In a
and
tiffin?
Keema sandwich, bro. Keema
Yes,
sandwich,
yes.
bro.
Oh my God.
Keema sandwich.
Oh
Cream
my
sandwich
goodness.
and
Well, like really weird
you
stuff.
you open up that Tupperware and holy, it's over, man. Everyone's laughing at
People are
you.
looking at you.
My mom would make this. God bless her. She's so amazing, dude. Her pizza was amazing that she would make, but she would make a desi version of the pizza,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And she like it looked like the kids would call it garbage pizza,
Oh,
and it
no.
just like, oh, it's garbage pizza. Oh look, he brought his garbage pizza again.
Oh,
and
Painful,
no.
man.
and you just like
For a
wrap
kid
it up.
especially.
You wrap it back up and tuck it away back into your lunch bag. You're like, forget it. I'm not even gonna eat.
Mm.
Totally
and
understand. So I'm in grade 5. These 3 white chicks, girls. I think they're in grade 6. White girls, a year older.
Yeah.
They're going through puberty a little faster than the boys. I'm a brown kid, so I have a mustache already, right?
Yeah,
We
I
got the
remember
brown
that.
stash. Remember that?
yeah.
The black stash, sorry.
Yeah, our parents were like really clueless. They should have made a shave back then.
Yeah.
My dad did the same thing. What about you? Did you have
Oh
crust
my
stash
gosh.
growing up?
No.
I didn't grow a
wasn't-
stash in 5th grade. You crazy? I think I grew one
I-
probably in 9th or 10th grade.
Yeah.
No, for me, I had a 7th or 8th grade. I had one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I grew it in college when I tried to become religious.
It's like that little peach
Oh,
fuzz.
it's,
The peach fuzz.
yeah, it's gross. Like if I had a son, I would make him shave it immediately. Even though we know the ijma is that shaving is haram.
Anyways, go ahead, dude.
So man,
Anyways, okay.
I'm just nervous because I can see them staring at me, and they're at that point. I think they were taller than me too, and I just feel this sense of I don't fit in. I don't know how to. My parents at home are they're raising me in a very conservative way. When your elders speak to you, shh, shut up. Opinions, no. So I see all my teachers in the same way. They're all wondering why doesn't this kid answer questions? But it's because of that programming, and it rubbed me the wrong way because now I see my peers in that way. They're white kids too, so I'm like, oh, so we're all supposed to just be very quiet and hush hush. I'm walking, these girls are like looking at me, and one of them's like, hey you, and I'm like, oh my god, she stared at me and she called me out, and I'm like, okay, my heart's racing, I'm nervous, I just keep walking. He calls me a second time, hey you, and then I don't look back. I cut a corner, turn left to keep walking, and then very loudly, she's like, "Stop walking away!" And I'm like, "Okay, it's definitely me she's talking about." I stop in my tracks. I turn around, and I slowly, sheepishly walk back. And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Why didn't you listen to me? I was calling you." And I'm like, I didn't hear. That's what I said. I didn't hear. And her friend's like, "You're right in front of us. How could you not hear?" And I'm like, I just didn't hear. And they're just like, "Well, do you know where so-and-so is?" And I'm like, it was some guy in my class. And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "You could have just said that." And I'm like, "So sorry." I just walk away.
So sorry.
And I'm like, right now I'm thinking to myself, why? Why did that even happen?
Yeah.
I can't even relate to that. It's like, that's not even me. Like, no one would believe that that's me.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because this is like you, like 15 years later,
Yeah.
and
I'm like, I can't imagine that was me. But that just speaks to how much self-work I had to do to
Mhm.
evolve.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
learn social skills. To learn how to just be a functional human being who can speak and connect and convey my thoughts, my
Yeah.
feelings.
And how much of your clientele is like you had that dichotomy where I remember I had a buddy back in the day. He's
A what buddy?
Bengali cat.
Oh.
He's actually in Bangladesh now. Got a business. He got some schools going.
Mhm.
He moved back, but
Yeah.
first day of school, man. Like his dad
Oh,
bought him.
he has a business in Bangladesh.
He's got him and one of my old Malaysian friends from back in the day started up like a cosmetics business.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he's got some schools as well for like the diplomats kids in Bangladesh.
Okay.
All right. So back in the day, so he comes over. He's off the boat in like 4th grade, right? His pops buys him like some shoes from like JJ giveaway or something, right? You know, pink or something. You know Bengalis
I
back
see
in the
that,
day.
yeah,
Remember
yeah.
now, pink dudes can wear pink.
They can wear pink now.
But back in the day,
No.
you know, you wore pink, it was over.
Oh, for sure.
Right,
For sure.
but in Bangladesh, you still wore pink, you know? So, Dad got him these pink shoes, and he just gets ripped on. He ends up getting into a fight, though, the first day. You know, these Bengali kids are rowdy.
Yeah,
4th grade, yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but the point is, the parents don't give us. My dad in 6th grade gave me some goofy looking backpack, right? Everybody else had something like it was like a little kid's backpack.
That's it.
I forgot what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like there's like sometimes with the immigrant parents, when you had that, like we're that first generation. Now with our kids, we won't make that
No,
mistake.
we're more socially aware.
Right. So
With them, it was just it's a bag that holds books. It gets the job done.
yeah,
That's
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no concept of like fads and like
None of that.
being trendy.
I don't get it either because I remember this very clearly. My older brother and I were dressed up like Arthur. Remember that show?
Oh my
Tight
god, dude!
straight up. Arthur, man.
I didn't think of that. You had to think that, hey, I look like Arthur back then. So no one could just come up with, hey, I look like Arthur off the fly. That's Dave. I hate that cartoon, by the way, man.
It's a wonderful kind of day.
No, please, no. I always.
God.
You don't like DW?
DW.
No, guys, I'll let you continue to say, but honestly, there's very few things that make me depressed. When I see that cartoon, I get so depressed. The dude's like an anteater or something, right?
Aardvark. Isn't it?
Aardvark, dude, I can't stand that, bro. It's so, I was like, it makes me so sad, like genuinely sad. I get sad.
I could see how it gets depressing.
It's so
It's
depressing,
a
bro.
popular
I was like,
children's series.
I
I
but-
liked it, man.
Yeah, I liked it
Did you
too.
like it?
I liked it too.
I
Yeah.
never liked that show, dude. We had some quality cartoons when we were young.
Yeah, bro.
We had
Just watch X-Men,
DuckTales.
homie.
We had DuckTales.
DuckTales.
No, X-Men was on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
We had what else did we
Chip
have?
and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Oh, Rescue Rangers.
Oh, Rescue
Fant-
Rangers. That was good.
Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing Duck, homie.
Let's
Oh,
get
did you hear?
dangerous.
DuckTales is coming back. I think.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, usually there'll be like 4 shows after school. Darkwing, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, Chip and Dale.
Yeah.
But
Three
before
straight.
before school was one of the best cartoons ever. Gargoyles.
Oh,
Remember
no,
Gargoyles?
Gargoyles came after school.
No, before school. It was in the mornings. I remember watching in the mornings.
I know for a fact.
Did you guys have?
Was it?
It's coming
What was
out.
it called?
But there might have been a rerun before school started, but we watched Gargoyles for sure. Demona,
What was
remember?
it called?
Mm.
Like Dinosaurs. You ever seen that?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs?
Must have been him, Canadian TV dog.
No, this is in Ohio, bro.
Ohio.
It came on at
Probably
6
a Germantown.
It came
Probably a
at
Germantown cartoon.
It was at 6 a.m. Dinosaurs. It was like dinosaurs in space.
What's up, bro?
I'm trying to remember this one
Oh.
show.
Oh, dude. Does anybody know CPR? What's something happening, dude?
No, I'm good. I
So,
can't remember the show.
so your pops dressed you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Arthur. Right.
Just
so-
like Arthur, man.
Right.
Just like Arthur. And I'm not fully aware that I'm dressed like that until I see myself in the mirror one day. I came home from school, and I'm like, what the hell am I wearing? You know? And the funny thing is, I've seen a picture of my dad when he was 20. My dad was one of the first batch of Bengali guys who got a full scholarship to the USSR, at the time Soviet Russia. He's 20. My dad's father passed away when he was 13, and he's the oldest male. Has one older sister, and then he has two younger brothers and numerous younger sisters. So he's having to take charge. He's having to really make himself stand up on his feet. And he gets to the USSR. I see a picture of him, and he's like wearing like slim fit white shirt tucked in these black dress pants. He has like shades, and he's just like standing with his hands on his hips. I'm like, how the heck did this man dress me like this?
Wow.
Another picture of him. He has like that long Beatles hair,
Yeah.
sunglasses. You know,
My dad had that too.
you know what I mean?
Dude, they all were styling, and then they would dress us up like,
Complete.
You're like designed. They dressed you up with the sole purpose of getting beat up.
yeah.
No, yeah.
This guy, Shaykh Amir, he dressed fly though, man.
I dressed
Masha-
fly.
Yeah, you had some nice clothes, mashallah.
When was this? I don't want.
When
I
you
want
were
to know.
young,
That's no. I used to wear my older brother's clothes. That's why.
yeah, his older brother had some
I remember
nice
that.
clothes.
Yeah, yeah.
Hand me downs, eh?
And not even having a while. He wasn't home and he wasn't looking at his go to the closet. And my oldest brother used to get really mad because
Yeah, yeah.
I just like put it inside my backpack and then when I was in high school, and then I put it on when I got to school. And they're like, "Who wore my shirt? This is ripping." And
I did that to my brother all the time. All the time I did that.
Yeah.
It's
Good
still
old
something we
days.
younger brothers do.
Yeah. So now I gotta figure out how do you dress your daughters, or they pick their own clothes.
My daughters?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I don't dress up my daughters. My wife does. That's
That's
my
right.
son. I take care of.
Okay.
I mean, with my daughters, my older two, like this one time I took them school shopping. I just took them to Express or whatever, and I just like pick out whatever you want.
Make sure it's halal.
Yeah, and they come back with like 3 or 4, items of dress. I'm like, I just told you guys, I just gave you a blank check to buy whatever you want, and you come back with like 3 outfits or whatever,
Yeah.
Like you back to school shopping, you gotta have
Yeah.
new clothes and whatever. So I mean.
That's good. That's actually
The-
very good.
No, I mean, this is the sign of the generations these days, Sheikh Amir.
You don't know.
You don't know yet. You will soon, but once your daughters grow up, it's not as fashion heavy as it was when we were young. When everyone wanted to wear jabot and
Jabrad.
Chenko
cross
jeans,
colors and
chess.
Yeah. I think also like the kids maybe they were like, we'd rather go to a high end place and only pick 3 outfits rather than go to Express, which is like fast fashion, right?
Yeah.
Take them like Off-White or Supreme.
no.
You gotta pay
They-
$280 for a sweatshirt.
They have no idea what those stores are.
These are U.S. brands, huh?
Yeah.
Outlets.
No, they're not outlets.
You don't know H&M? You don't have that?
No, we got
one?
H&M.
Oh, H&M, yeah,
That's
yeah.
made in our. That's made in our
Express-
motherland.
You're talking about like, yeah, for sure. Like you guys have Roots. Roots is
Yeah,
quality.
yeah. Roots is good.
You know, so like, tell us about what are back to the your clientele. What are you talked about like addiction, the whole AA protocol, right?
Yeah.
That 12-step.
Yeah.
What are the well, actually, I'll ask a couple things. Sim highlighted the whole point of like, all right, like sometimes it's, he can't get up in the morning to go to the gym and he blames himself because he couldn't, etc. But then reality is he's got 4 kids, right? And a lot of dads, a lot of Muslim dads, are already out of shape. When you're already out of shape, your fall is uphill climb. You're not like a fit dad already.
No, exactly.
You're coming in with the dad bod. Okay, then you got like 3 or 4 kids. So we get 3 or 4 kids. Usually, it's not really feasible to go to bed at 9:30. Like, and then if you go for Fajr, it's like you gotta get a nap in or something if you want to be awake at work. So like sometimes your situation becomes a lot more like you have this time constraint. So how does a father of 4 who's got a podcast and like an intense IT job find what do you need, an hour to go to the gym? If you got an hour like 4 days a week, you'd be good.
Man, if I get a half hour in, it's a great.
But I think if someone who's trying to be really productive, obviously this is your answer, but I just want to. Isn't that another excuse though? Isn't that like kind of building on and just piling on another.
But he's already got like, because like some cats are already like, you know. Plus his dad makes awesome biryani. I told you about like on the way here. Like his dad makes like really good biryani.
I told him to.
Dude,
you know,
all
get
the mills
get
in their
business.
house are hot commodities, bro. They all know how to cook really well.
All the who?
All the mills.
his brother-
his brother is like a chef.
Yeah, his brother
He's a
makes
chef
good,
in his own
best
right.
barbecue.
His dad's an awesome chef.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
fantastic.
Yes,
That's fantastic.
yes.
Mashallah. See, these are you guys call these dudes outright bros. They can cook better than half the Desi women in this country.
Oh. Don't go there. The sister's he's not affiliated with the Mad Bumlooks in any way.
Why are you apologizing for him,
I think
bro?
I'm sleeping here tonight, eh?
No. You have a point, man. Look, a lot of chefs that you see on the Food Network and whatnot,
Gordon
they're
Ramsay.
all men.
Yeah, there.
Men do know how to cook
Men definitely.
food very well. Not all of them. The ones who do cook, they cook
They cook
really well.
Yeah.
The ones who don't know how to cook, they're slaves to their wives' recipes,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't complain.
So, anyways,
That's it.
That's the
right.
scenario. So, how does a person like that, you know, where you've got this scenario, you got these are your constraints in life. You have because there's no 8-hour work day.
Sure.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
how often are you able to go and just work 8 hours and bounce?
Sure.
No.
Yeah.
Never, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 9-10. You probably commute half an hour. So let's say round trip an hour. You're basically already at
And you're
12, 13 hours.
You're also not only using time, you're losing energy.
correct. Yeah, energy
You're
management,
already
right?
losing energy.
Right. So it's not time management. Like end of the day, you know. So he wants to because he realizes that in the morning is when he's got the full battery. So he needs to get to the gym because after work,
Yeah.
you're trying to go to the gym. You'd be like, I just want to go home and sleep or get coffee,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
So how do we? How does someone like that manage that? How do they break out of that rut, so to speak?
So it's an interesting conundrum because the more your energy is spent, the less you have to fight your nafs, right? So it's about finding efficient ways to firstly do the tasks that you were obliged to do in the first place. Manage your family. You want to find the most optimal way to do things. You need to make sure everyone's on board. Your wife, your kids, everyone has to be on board. So this is why, part of evolving as a man in the domain of fitness requires becoming more socially competent too. You can't escape the need to become socially competent. If you're socially competent, you're trying to be socially competent. You're gonna make your relationships work for your goals, not against your goals, right? You need to understand how to openly talk to the people in your life about your goals. Everyone has to be involved because everyone in your life affects you making your goals possible or you failing to reach your goals. If you don't have that conversation and no one else in your life cares about you getting to the gym, you're going to find it 10 times harder to get to the gym. If your wife cares about your health, which she should, if your kids are, let's say they're older, they care about your health, which they should, it's a duty for children to care about their parents' health, then you're going to find that not only can you fight your nafs, your whole family's going to help you fight your nafs. They're going to help you stick to that day where you have to go to the gym.
Dude, you obviously haven't been married.
I've had other responsibilities.
Because wives, I think,
No, well, firstly, I do have experience.
because the thing is, it's like a lot of times wives don't understand fitness. Sometimes the wives are out of shape.
Yeah.
So how would they know about
No,
fitness?
that's not true.
The
That's
wives
not true.
want you to be out of shape so they can feel better about themselves.
And they want to go out. And plus, my wife always tells me, like, I don't care what you eat as long as it doesn't affect what I eat.
Okay, so that's a problem. It's a problem.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Your
like,
wife's a doctor.
she's a gynecologist. She looks at vaginas.
I see.
Oh,
That doesn't help dudes with guts. All right?
She's still a doctor. She went through medical school.
Yeah.
Mahin, can you at least give us a warning sign before you go off like that, dude? Maybe there's kids that are going to be watching.
I tried to.
It's 11 p.m. at night. They shouldn't be awake right
No,
now.
but
I
this
think,
is
I
going
think,
to be
I think some
watched
of them are
later, too.
watching. I think some of the Lions Cubs are watching.
Lions
It's all like
Clubs.
17, so you know.
Yeah, they
get it.
it's. I
They
just
get
said a part of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
woman's anatomy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's in textbooks in high school. All
The
right.
thing is, though,
So-
if you're managing relationships
Yeah.
with your women folk
yeah.
as a wali,
Right.
and look, a lot of guys in the so-called orthodox conservative circles
Yeah.
talk a big game on Facebook about we have to be walis, but these same dudes can't even get their wives on board. I have experience with this. All right, I have experience not only in an intimate marital context. I've dealt with some of the most dysfunctional women you can imagine.
Whoa.
We're talking
tell
about
us
narcissist borderlines. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Narcissist borderlines. They seem like they're the most innocent people in the world to society, But deep down, they're very sinister people. I've dealt with guys who've been psychopaths. You see what I mean? So it's like you need to know how to stand behind your expectations, especially if those expectations are functional.
Yeah.
They benefit everyone, especially as a man. Like if your wife doesn't care about health, you are responsible for getting her to understand that health is important. My dad, he's like 66 now. He just straight up tells my mom, "You need to exercise." She will tell her that, and she doesn't cry. She doesn't get offended. She knows that her son, me, as a personal trainer, she'll come to me, and I will try my best to help her. You see what I mean? Likewise, he himself, he's 66. Most uncles, I get it, they don't have this in them, but he takes charge proactively to go to the gym 3 times a week. He's been a quadruple bypass surgery patient, and this was when I was 18, so this would have been 7 years ago. So he was just 59. At this point he had stopped smoking for almost 15 years. No, not 15, maybe 11 years. And for those 11 years, he had made a complete 180-degree change. He was eating well, he was exercising, going for walks, but he still had a clog in his heart. Or not his heart, sorry, his arteries. 4 of them. And he was very troubled because he felt that those 11 years were wasted. That he tried, to live healthily, and yet all those years of smoking caught up anyways. But he didn't give up. He kept sticking to a routine while having to commute to work, living only 2 or 3 days at home with us, and the rest of the time by himself in Toronto. And my mom is at home with 3 sons, trying to take care of us. He found time to work out and stay healthy. Being the main breadwinner, having all these challenges, having to be away from his family for those many days, and then come back on the weekend. On the weekend he would do all the cooking for us. My mom was working, and he made a deal with her, I think, at one point, saying, "Look, if you work, and you're doing something that is not fard on you, then I will help with certain tasks at home." He just likes cooking too, so he did that. He still worked out. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
He still worked out.
Yeah.
My mom still understood the necessity of health too.
Sure.
I can talk to her frankly about it. I can talk to girls frankly about it. I hear all these stories about guys saying, "Well, my wife will get this way," or "You haven't been married." I don't buy it, because I've been in contexts where I've been very personal with people who would get triggered around many other people, and yet with me, I just stood behind my expectation, and they understood that I meant well for them.
Sure.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I really meant well for them, and I didn't budge. I didn't budge when they got offended.
Yeah.
But I would also provide incentive. You see, for them to actually care.
Yeah.
And that can take many forms: softness, understanding, empathizing, motivating. Now, if you're trying to be, excuse me, if you're trying to be forthright without giving incentive to a person in the form of "I care about you," I'm also understandable, I'm also reasonable. They might be more reluctant to listen. I get it. But if you take the right approach and you're balancing Jalal and Jamal in your approach as a man, they're going to listen. So back to the original question, if you're open with your family and you take steps, this depends entirely on how far you've let go of being healthy with your family. For some guys, if this is the first time in 10 years that they've tried being open, it's not going to happen overnight. Their wives very well may be unreasonable.
Oh, they're skeptical.
Skeptical.
Yeah.
Their kids may very well be spoiled. But that's not because it's impossible to get them to be reasonable. It's because for the last 10 years you weren't doing the active work of shaping them to understand.
Sure, sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You're working against 10 years now.
Yeah.
So naturally it's going to take time. But let's say you have been, well then they're going to actually be more understanding most of the time. And even if you haven't been, take that first step. Get them to be. Get them connect with other families who are.
Yeah.
Right? Because then not only are you trying to shape them yourself, you're going to have that cultural effect too. Oh, well, that bhabhi, that auntie, that sister, well, her and her family, they live healthily. Okay, my husband might have a point. Oh, my teacher in Arabic class supports this idea. Okay.
Yeah.
You see, the idea is being reinforced. and a socially competent man understands that shaping behavior has multiple stages.
Yeah.
Right? There's the individual stage, then there's the family stage, then there's the communal stage, so on and so forth. Each step you have to try to get each step to be on the same page and to reinforce the expectation you're placing. We're in a world of jahiliyyah where in reality, in practice, it's often the opposite. You and what you're trying to do as a responsible man, everyone else is going against. Everything you teach your children, the moment they step outside your house, they're going to get the completely opposite conflicting message.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get that. But you guys found each other, right? That's also true. That happened, that you found each other, and that you all have kids, and that your kids can get to know each other. And there you go. You have a circle right there that can reinforce the same expectations you guys hold.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's much more powerful than just you telling your wives or your kids, I need to go to the gym tomorrow.
Yeah.
You see? I know this from experience because I've done this in Waterloo.
Yeah.
I've done this in Hamilton to multiple communities and in multiple stages.
Yeah. So we basically, since we had you on the show, we're getting all this for free then.
Yeah. You get it for free.
That
man.
was my hidden agenda. To ask a question about the food.
No, I need some of those rings.
You
Sim is such a giving guy. If you
Look how
ask him for anything,
beautiful
he'll
that
give
is.
it to you.
Yeah.
Ask
No,
him
no,
for
no,
his ring. Ask him for his laptop. Ask him for his phone.
Yeah, so,
I'll give you this.
well, I want to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up here because it's 11 p.m.
Sure.
And I've got to drive
Darn it, I
Fahim
was
back.
just having fun. I had a lot of questions for him, but anyway.
We're going to bring
We'll
you.
do this
Fahim
again.
comes to Chicago like once a year because his
Once a year, man.
older brother lives in Chicago. Goes a PhD student here, right? The older
Yeah, he's
brother.
a PhD student.
Yeah, so, by the way.
Biophysics.
And trying to get married.
He's trying to get married. He's an eligible bachelor.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Like,
He's
Fahim is
sincere.
eligible bachelor as well.
yeah.
That's not
Fahim doesn't believe in getting married, right, Fahim?
I gotta ask him what, number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Number 3 is open right now, but the problem is,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
She
Yeah,
had me to
be
meet a
careful,
certain
you might stay a bachelor for a long time.
Yeah. But, yeah, his,
standard. What if I'm not lying though?
yeah. For free advertising for Fahim's older brother here. If y'all want to, like, get with them, hit me up. Hit us up with a DM and we'll link it up. Inshallah. But
My older brother's a really sincere dude. He's probably one of the most authentic guys I know. And he's like we were talking earlier about having one face. He's like that,
MashaAllah.
He's very much.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
yeah, I've met him a couple times. Last year when he came, and then I saw him ran had the pleasure of meeting your younger brother too, which I was really impressed with. Like I told, I didn't really tell him this, but 21-year-old kid, he had a really good head on straight.
Absolutely.
Seems like your parents are doing something right. So alhamdulillah, a good family. So these brothers are all eligible. But the 21-year-old, we ain't trying to get him married yet because
here he comes.
we need to get him because the market for women at his age is very small,
That's right.
and we need to maximize.
You gotta get the older fellas married off first.
Right.
Get
You
more
know what I'm saying?
experience.
Yeah, we'll let the younger bro age like the fine wine that he is. Fine halal, non-alcoholic wine, the wine, like wine of Jannah. How can people find out more about you?
Yeah. You can hit me up and you can ask me about my specific services. I offer fitness, corrective exercise, mixed martial arts. For example, in my community, I hold brothers workshops.
Do you teach mixed martial arts too?
I'm a boxer. I got
MashaAllah.
13 years of experience. Alhamdulillah.
I didn't know that.
We I guess skip that.
No, I saw a clip of you punching
Mahin?
what was that? I think it was that ball that has the 2 strings attached.
Oh, it was probably a reflex bag.
Yeah.
It was a dollar Sheikh Hasina.
I'm gonna have to get one of those. I don't have one of those yet.
That's
Did you
the thing
compete at
all
all?
the
I know we should talk about. Oh,
I
did you?
I did, yeah.
That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
man. I had no idea.
It's like next year when you come back. Are you gonna come back before next year to Chicago? Like, why is it only
We
once a
got
year?
it, man. We didn't talk about a lot of the.
Well, you need to come on a weeknight. The problem. Okay, so tomorrow,
Mhm.
Sheikh Amir and I have the flight to Isna, Houston for
Yeah, yeah.
Isna. Sim's going on Saturday, right? We still got to go to work tomorrow and do what work, man.
Get our packing done.
Yeah, get our packing
No,
done,
I
right?
understand.
I gotta go home now and
The,
pack.
the timing
Yeah.
just wasn't convenient, but I'm
Yeah.
really glad that we talked.
It was
a lot
great
about
that we got a
personal
chance to sit down and chill, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Awesome.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then
Alhamdulillah.
And all the ethers, man, guys do dua for him. He gave us some awesome ethers
Yeah.
and some awesome.
Well, my pleasure.
And you got it from Turkey, too,
Rings
right?
and,
Turkey
some-
from
Some
rings from
of the
Turkey.
stuff was from Turkey.
Yes,
Some
what a
from,
gentleman,
Medina.
mashallah.
Can
gentlemen.
you talk about your book that's coming up or no?
Yeah, I can discuss a little bit about that.
Yeah.
What's our time constraint right now? 10 minutes?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, a few minutes.
Sure.
5 minutes.
Five. Let's go 5.
5 minutes?
Let's
Okay.
go 5.
Under
Okay,
five.
inshallah. There are a number of projects I'm working on. One of them is the Islamic Discourse Initiative. I'm doing that with a number of really good brothers. Some are in Bangladesh. Shout out to Ahmed. Shout out to Ikram al-Islam. He's in the States. Shout out to
Ikram
you.
al-Islam?
Ikram al-Islam.
Just continue. Don't
Know
listen to anything you
Sounds
guys.
like a prophet. I don't know.
Astaghfirullah.
It sounds like it, the way he said it.
Abdullah Mu'taz, Sayyid
Quiet.
Shahir.
Don't just stay quiet when you.
Sayyid Shahiruddin. There's Sayyid Hassan Raza. There's Muhammad in Australia. There's just so many. They're all around the world, and they're great people because they're focused on the dawah. They're trying to take on a sort of Yaqeen Institute type of look and feel, except they're very straight up and blunt about every topic they discuss. We have articles on feminism. We have articles on capitalism, history, the recent issue, the Bukhari Gate. Remember that issue?
Ooh.
We have an article in defense of Bukhari against Naheem Ajmal. We call him out straight up.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's my boy.
We got beef, man.
Nah.
No,
Look, I disagree with him,
criticism,
but
criticism.
hey, I disagree with him, but he's still a friend.
That's fine. That's fine. For
And
you.
I think, if you talk to him, he will talk back to you and
I tried,
have a
man. He
discussion.
blocked me. I was nice to him. When he blocked me.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
You're nice?
I was nice.
He'll only block usually when you're coming across as kind of a jerk.
I was straight up nice, man. I was
Well,
very.
you should have just messaged him
structured.
privately. I'll put you in touch. You wanna talk to him?
We'll see. Bismillah. I'll do istikhara.
We can be intermediaries.
Okay,
if you
sure.
want.
Inshallah. How about
You
this?
could
My
be his
team-
wali. Why don't you be his
My
wali?
team can
How's
talk
that?
to him. My team.
You
Yeah.
could be his wali. How's
Because
that?
we can deliver that constructive criticism to him,
Yeah.
and we can have a
good.
facilitated discussion.
I
So-
feel like a lot of our misunderstandings and not even necessarily misunderstandings, even our disagreements can be figured out through discussion and some of the things that you may have thought that you were super stringent on as being part of your belief.
Sure.
You will find out that there's actually some disagreement, that there's room for disagreement in some of that discourse.
Yeah.
So
And you
yeah.
can find that, like you said, that there is a basis for that disagreement. There are premises that you should understand. I
Right.
get that, and I'm always open
Yeah.
to discussion.
Yeah.
If the other party is. So our project is a dawah project. We try publishing academic papers, and then I try to simplify them in a sort of street dawah way, on Instagram Live, in person, doing little workshops where I'm trying to condense some complicated ideas, like the argument from contingency for God's existence. How do you explain that to like a group of 14-year-old guys, right?
Yeah.
High school guys? And so my job is to try to do that. And I sometimes combine my dawah efforts with Focus 180. Like last week or 2 weeks ago, I was in a city called Hamilton, and I did futwa workshops, masculinity workshops for young guys, the 17-year-old brothers that are tuning in the 180 lines, which is a service I offer. It's a coming of age program for young boys, and through Islamic Discourse Initiative, through Focus 180, I have acquired so much data on the human condition and many levels of it. What's up with young guys? What's up with young women in their 20s? I decided to put together a book that I'm writing on personal development in this age, and it covers a lot of the topics that we talked about. I know that in this age, this stuff is really popular because look at Jordan Peterson. His 12 Rules of Life blew up, man.
No.
Blew up, and a lot of it was common sense. It really was. But my aim for this book is for it to be a cold, hard look at personal development without using any gimmicky, lines or
Yeah.
any gimmicky concepts that just sell.
The
You know what I mean?
thing is, like, 12 rules of life don't just succeed in a vacuum. Like, if I wrote it, it wouldn't even come.
I was just gonna say
it
that,
wouldn't be
yeah.
nothing. And
Yeah.
it would just be a blip on the radar. Because Jordan Peterson built up a character and he built up this huge following,
That's a marketing principle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he
And
was
yeah.
able
him
to,
getting in trouble by the university and all that stuff for his.
And that's why he released his book now. He didn't write this
He's smart. He
20
knows
years
what's
ago,
up.
yeah.
right?
He knows what's up.
Yeah. But even still, like, there is a huge market for this stuff because people are confused.
Yeah.
More and more people are becoming cognizant of mental health issues. More and more
Yeah.
people, are getting more comfortable getting help. So it's like there's a market for this stuff, and more people want in on it. So I decided, you know what? There's too much progressive perspectives on this topic. I want to offer a more orthodoxly grounded and just real perspective that I believe will definitively offer value to people who want to improve. It's not going to be fluffy. It's not going to be something that people are necessarily going to like and accept, especially if they have progressive premises. And not even that all progressive premises are wrong outright, but generally speaking, if you are progressive oriented, you're probably gonna be brushed the wrong way. That's just a fact. But guess what? You need to be challenged if you want to grow. And I believe that the work that I'm putting together, inshallah, is going to be beneficial. It reflects my work with my own clients and the patterns I've noticed that have led them to succeed, that have led them to go through growth, that have led them to actually solve their problems. So inshallah, that is up and coming. My website is first and foremost going to be put together. It's currently in the works. I delayed that for like 3 years. I don't know how I did it, but I operated without a website for 3 years, 4 years, and it worked.
How many clients do you have?
Currently at this point, I will have anywhere between, like a few people are joining. I won't include them. So without them, about 50. Internationally, right?
Nice.
Some of them are in person, some of them are internationally. Some people in the UK.
That's impressive.
Alhamdulillah. Trinidad, Canada.
What about Tobago?
No one in there.
Everyone ignores Tobago.
It's
Tobago's
Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Do you think it's called tobacco or Tobago?
Tobago.
Tobago.
Okay, I thought you said tobacco.
I made a post about it recently, and I did include it.
You know who's from Trinidad and Tobago, don't you?
My friend Kalim. He's
No.
my marketing lead.
Conspiracy theorist Sheikh.
Who's that?
You know who? The Dajjal's coming anytime soon.
I'm not familiar.
Imran.
Oh, Imran.
Imran Hussein.
Imran Hussein. He's from there?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Right? Isn't he from
I
there?
thought he was Pakistani.
When I first saw a picture of you, I thought that you were Guyanese or from Trinidad or something.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
They're cool people, man.
they're very cool.
They're very cool people.
I used to live with some bros.
All right, man. I gotta go home. I gotta drop this guy off and go home and go to sleep. And pick
Make
up
him take an
cookies.
Uber, bro. It'd be the manly thing to do.
I thought about doing that, but then I was like, I gotta pick his brain some more
He must have asked me
by
questions.
myself. Unless you want to drive him. But all right, for our listeners out there, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at themadmamluks@gmail.com.
Mhm.
We are on YouTube Live, so subscribe on YouTube. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Give us a
Share the
5-star review.
videos, tell your friends and family. This work is important. If you guys do not support it, we will close up shop and call it a day.
Thank you very much. The Madman. was
And
here.
then new email address, right?
Yeah, info@themadmabooks.com.
.com. So do not email the old Gmail address anymore.
It's been shut down.
If you
Go ahead.
Oh, shout out to Abdullah Munni, my assistant trainer, and Kalim. He's my marketing director.
Kalim the Dream.
Kalim the Dream and Abdullah Munni.
Mashallah.
They're the two newest interns on the Focus 180 team.
mashallah.
Oh, very nice.
Alhamdulillah. The dream team.
You got some.
You have
interns now.
interns? We don't have
Yeah,
interns.
interns, man.
Nah,
Alhamdulillah.
No, we got some interns. We got a lot of beautiful people helping out
Alhamdulillah.
for this effort. That
Behind the scenes,
hardly ever get any credit.
Yeah.
We should give some shout outs.
Fahim Dayala.
Fahim,
Yeah, I'm
Thank
out
you
in
so much.
SoCal doing so much great work.
Amir Budwani,
Our
awesome
accountant.
work. My wife Noreen.
Mashallah. Did I inspire you guys
Awesome.
to give credit finally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been hoarding it all. We want people to think it's just three of us. And Mort.
Yeah.
You know what, guys? Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the plural form or Jazakum Allahu khairan?
Jazakum is when it's plural.
Jazakum Allahu khairan.
Yeah, when you're addressing
Okay.
3 people, it's Jazakum.
Jazakum.
Even more, yeah.
Mashallah, he's like.
I just-
You got it.
said-
You got it,
I say
bro.
it that way usually, even if it's a singular context.
Yeah, if you say it in plural tense, there's a little Arabic we can learn right now, inshallah. If you use a plural term with one person, it's a sign of high respect.
I respect. Like Apni.
Like you're
Ramadan.
speaking, yeah. It's like you're speaking to them as a group.
He knows Apni.
And
I-
what
yeah.
is it?
We
and
got
when
one
you-
minute.
when you-
Oh, of course.
But I knew some Bengali. I don't know the pronunciation, but they would say apon.
Apon.
Okay, so when you
Apon.
reply, then is it what yak is singular and what
Oh, apon is for us,
plural?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Apon.
So what yak is singular and what yakum is plural?
Yeah.
So same
Well,
fact.
yeah, kuma is for 2.
Alright,
Acha,
alright. Alright, we gotta wrap this up. Mahin, come on.
So
I hear the wrap up already. We are here, so that's for our special guest,
Yeah.
Fahim Faruk,
Yeah.
Focus 180. I got my co-host Sheikh Amir, Saeed, and Sim. This is Mahin signing off for the Mad Mamluks. Assalamu alaikum.
Aywala.
Oh, and don't forget about this now.
Oh, yeah, it's not.
See you listener, Sunday.
Yeah.
If we don't get rained out. Peace.
Leaving
We ain't
tomorrow
getting
night,
rained
right?
out.
Yeah.
Bismillah.
We ain't getting rained out.
Alright.
Zuzu and people are waving. Oh, nice. Who's watching right now? Shakif? Oh, man, I feel so bad. Shakif
Tell him to
requested.
be quiet, dude.